One big move would change my mind about drafting Jeremiyah Love in the first round, and that's if the Saints signed Kenneth Walker III.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, we're taking a look at some off-season scenarios. We're going to pair one free agent running back with a first-round wide receiver and one free agent wide receiver with a first-round running back and see which one we like more. On today's episode, we'll take a look at the pairings of Jeremiyah Love in the first round and Romeo Dobbs in free agency, or Kenneth Walker III in free agency and Carnell Tate in the first round. We got all that for you on today's show. We appreciate you very much, whether it's your first time or your next time, being here with us this time, making us your first listen, and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks for helping us get here as we bring you your team every day. So I want to start off with a look at the one signing, the one move that would absolutely, for certain, there are others that would make me consider, but the one that would make me for certain change my mind about why the Saints should draft Jeremiyah Love at number 8 overall, and that is if they signed free agent running back Kenneth Walker III. Now, here's the thing. It's unlikely that Kenneth Walker III actually hits the market. The franchise tag is like $14 million for the running backs going into this year. That's the expectation, or somewhere around there, $15 million. And so that is a very, very easy amount of money for the Seattle Seahawks to say, yeah, front that, and then be able to turn that around and create some kind of an opportunity to work out a long-term extension. But let's just operate under the hypothetical that Kenneth Walker III becomes a free agent and the Saints were to sign him. And then open up the first round of the NFL draft, drafting some people's wide receiver 1 in Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate. I'm going to save Jordan Tyson for another day in another scenario, but right now I want to focus on Carnell Tate because Carnell Tate doesn't have like the injury caveats that a Jordan Tyson has, so it feels like it's a little bit less of a big conversation here. So the reason why it would change my mind about drafting Jeremiyah Love in the first round is because if you sign Kenneth Walker III, you're set. You're set as an organization when it comes to running back. Now, you are getting a running back that's not as young, of course, as a Kenneth Walker, as a Jeremiyah Love. There's no doubt about that. By investing in a Kenneth Walker III, you're going to end up getting somebody that's slightly older, but not by much. He's only going into his age 26 year. That's not bad at all. You can get another contract out of him more than likely after this one. Had his first 1,000-yard rushing season last year in the Super Bowl run for the Seattle Seahawks, 1,027 yards. Had only 5 rushing touchdowns during the regular season, but it was his ability to average 4.6 yards per carry, and he's averaged over 4 yards per carry in 3 of his 4 seasons all throughout. The thing that he doesn't give you is a ton of receiving prowess. That's the one thing you're not going to see a ton from him, but you do see it. 31 receptions this year, 46 receptions last year. Nothing too big, right? Nothing too big, but certainly nothing too small either, but that's okay. Because by signing Kenneth Walker III, you get the opportunity to go into the first round and draft the top-ranked edge rusher, or in today's scenario, drafting the top-ranked wide receiver. And in this case, the idea here being Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate would be a fantastic player to put in this offense. He's already said that he'd love to work with Tyler Shough, and as well as, who did he pair him with? Oh, Josh Allen, right? And of course, you get the Ohio State guys. You put him and Chris Olave together. He had an 807 receiving yard season with 9 receiving touchdowns on 51 receptions. Just 51 receptions over at Ohio State in his final year. And so if you get somebody like that to pair with somebody like Kenneth Walker III, you probably feel pretty good about that. Now, we're going to take a look at the other side of this and look at the more dynamic running back. I'll explain why I say that in Jeremiyah Love, but then go with the more complementary wide receiver in Romeo Doubs and what that could potentially look like. But this is a really strong start. Kenneth Walker III and Carnell Tate is a home run offseason, especially if you also land somebody to help you out on the offensive line, right? If you land a Dave Edwards or heck, you get an Elijah Vera Tucker, you get a Zion Johnson, you get a Ed Ingram, right? You get those along with these two offensive weapons, and then bang, you're in a really, really good position moving into your 2026 season with Tyler Shough. Like you have Tyler Shough, and then around him, in front of him, you have a solid offensive line. Then you have Kenneth Walker III, the potential for Alvin Kamara, the potential for Devin Neal. Then you have Chris Olave, Carnell Tate, Devon Vele, Juwan Johnson, maybe add another tight end as well. That's a pretty good supporting cast for your quarterback that can extend plays and create with the ball in his hand. So pretty good start to our free agent offseason scenarios here. Let's take a look at the other side of this one, which takes a look at going running back in the first round and investing in wide receiver in the open market. Let's get to that next as we continue on with this extra episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. Taxes aren't supposed to take up all of your time. It's my least favorite part of this time of the year, and that's where TurboTax comes in, because TurboTax is going to set you up with a trusted local expert who, start to finish, will take care of all of your taxes for you so you don't have to deal with the stress or the guesswork. No more having to worry about all those terrible forms and taking all those other W-2s and self-employment forms and getting them all put together. None of that will be your responsibility thanks to our friends over at TurboTax. It's a huge time saver, and it's a real peace of mind to be able to know that an expert is handling your taxes for you. And for a limited time right now, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert did not file your taxes last year, all you have to do is file by February 28th. So take those taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The winter games are here, and if you're anything like me, you want to make sure you're getting all locked in on those events. And of course, the best way to do that is with our friends over at FanDuel right now, who are going to help you stay engaged with the biggest stage of sports every 4 years with the Winter Olympic Games over at FanDuel. It just makes sense, from medal counts to individual events. Finding your angle to your favorite sports that you care the most about throughout the Winter Olympics is going to be super easy. Everything from speed skating to hockey to, of course, those niche events that you really like as well. You can stay fully locked in on the competition by visiting FanDuel.com today. You can even get into the drama of the curling matches, of course, one of my favorites. The U.S. right now, second in odds for most gold medals. You can get in on all of that today because the Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to get in than over at FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game, FanDuel.com. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation, looking at the other side of our offseason scenario. And let's go running back in the first round of the draft, but go to free agency for a complimentary wide receiver. So we're looking at a little bit of a different scenario here, because when it came to landing Kenneth Walker III, you're getting a bit of a complimentary running back that's going to be a part of a tandem or a part of a committee in the backfield. If you're drafting Jeremiyah Love, you're getting a workhorse back, basically. And then you have guys that can rotate in. So we're going to flip that at the wide receiver side as well, just to kind of keep the comparison fair. Instead of landing a wide receiver that's going to be potentially your top wide receiver in Carnell Tate, we're going to go with a guy in Romeo Doubs that can allow you to be able to utilize all three of those wide receivers in a bit of a committee fashion. So with Romeo Dobbs coming in, only 26 years old, same age as Kenneth Walker III. See why I picked what I picked here? He had 55 catches for 724 yards and 6 touchdowns in the regular season in 2025. A very strong situation there. His market value is set at about $12 million, according to Spot Rack, and that puts him around like the 31st highest paid wide receiver. So a very manageable contract there, even if you were to also extend Chris Olave, because all of your other wide receivers are on very affordable and in many cases rookie deals. Look at Jeremiyah Love, 199 rushing yards, 199 rushes in 2025, 1,372 rushing yards, 18 rushing touchdowns. This is coming off of a season where he also had 17 rushing touchdowns the year before that. He also added 27 receptions for 280 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Now, I still really like this pairing, but I got to be honest, I kind of feel the Kenneth Walker III, Carnell Tate pairing better than this one. The separator here for me, though, the thing that maybe makes me go, okay, but I could live with Jeremiyah Love and Romeo Dobbs and be perfectly happy with that, is that Jeremiyah Love is a better pass protector and he's a better receiver out of the backfield than Kenneth Walker III is. Now, that might not matter to you. That's totally fine. You might think, well, who cares, Ross? Running backs are supposed to run the football, and Kenneth Walker III does a very good job running the football. We saw that, averaged over 100 yards in each of his playoff games, including the Super Bowl. Really, really impressive performance by the young running back. Part of why I don't expect that he actually gets out of Seattle. But he would give you pause. Like, if you signed him, here's what you're definitely not doing. You're definitely not signing Kenneth Walker III and then going into the first round and drafting Jeremiyah Love. You're definitely not doing that. That's why this scenario is so fun. But I don't mind the pairing of Romeo Dobbs and Jeremiyah Love at all, but it doesn't give you the same impact at your wide receiver position that Carnell Tate does. That, I think, is the thing that makes me actually like the Kenneth Walker III part of the scenario better, is that you could end up with Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson, and you've impacted both your running back room and your wide receiver room in a very big way. When it comes to Jeremiyah Love and Romeo Dobbs, you end up impacting your running back room in a generational way, but you add another piece to the wide receiver room. You see what I'm saying? So it's a little bit of the impasse. So a little bit of the impasse for me with this decision is, man, I'm really taking a hit at wide receiver. Doesn't have anything to do with which of the running backs I end up with, because I'd be perfectly happy with either of the running backs. And so I think that that's maybe where the separator here is. And this is the way that NFL teams have these types of conversations a lot. Now, I'm exaggerating this conversation and talking about hypothetical free agency and draft pairings. Usually this is a good conversation for, like, well, we could get this in the first round and this in the second round, or we could get this in the first round and then this player at that other position in like the sixth round or the fourth round, and the grade's not very different between the two, right? Because the position's deep enough or whatever it might be. That's not really what this is, but I'm taking that conversation and I'm, blowing it out of proportion here in order to be able to create this content. But I do think that this is a cool conversation, and I do think I'm very, very interested to hear. I've already put up a poll. Actually, let me go and check the results of the poll, because I forgot that I put it up early. And so we can actually look at what the poll said for Locked On Saints viewers over on YouTube, and then we'll be able to see exactly what it is that the people think on this one. So it's tight. Given these two, 45%, given these two pairings, 45% say Romeo Dobbs and Jeremiyah Love, 55% say Kenneth Walker III and Carnell Tate. So it's a 10% split, but 5% away from being dead even in this one. So really, really cool. Excited to see how the rest of that voting goes. Let me know what you think as well. Hit me up if you're on the All Access program. Shoot me a text. Hit me up on social media. Comment in the comment section below. Whatever it is that works for you. You can hit us up in the Discord as well. But man, I think this is a really, really interesting sort of exercise in terms of how to look at free agency and the draft. So where would you go? Would you go Romeo Dobbs in free agency, Jeremiyah Love in the first round, or Kenneth Walker III, Carnell Tate in the first round? I think as much as I love Jeremiyah Love, no pun intended, I got to go Kenneth Walker III in free agency and Carnell Tate in the first round. Let me know what you think. All right, coming up in tomorrow's episode, we're taking a look at some of the underrated players on the New Orleans Saints roster that could step into contributing roles in 2026. We got all of that coming up for you in tomorrow's episode. We appreciate you very much. As always, make this a part of your day, part of your routine for saying yes to me on the show. If you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.